Hi everyone, we are now on video 4. In video 3, you learned about how to create healthy alternatives to whatever the infidelity solved, the psychological issue. And you learned that by practicing the liberating wafit, that new alternatives can happen there. And so I want you to practice that. That's one of those things you can do for a lifetime. Now for video 4, what we're talking about is helping the betrayed person heal and restoring trust between you. I have worked with thousands of couples, and I have a very high success rate with couples who are healing from infidelity because between me and the work that the couple did, we were able to restore trust. So that is what this video is all about. So when we talk about how to restore trust, the first thing I want to say is this. What I have found with couples who are having relationship problems, which all of us have some kind of relationship problems are inevitable in intimate relationships. It's not what the couple is doing, saying, or thinking that's the problem. It's actually what the couple is not doing, saying, or thinking. In other words, we need to create positive habits. And oftentimes, these are positive habits that we haven't seen our parents do when we were younger. So we have to be, in some sense, pioneers. And in video 5, I will be talking a lot about how to create these healthy patterns and how to go from just surviving infidelity to thriving as a couple. But I will be talking about it somewhere in this video too, in the context of how to restore trust. Because if you, as the person who committed infidelity, wants the person you betrayed to trust you, there has to be some changes in your relationship as a couple. If you want the betrayed partner to trust you, that partner has to feel differently. And that partner is going to feel differently if different things are happening between you. So the first thing, of course, is to continue working, both of you, on your wafits to create that liberating wafit. We want to make sure that those limiting beliefs aren't running you anymore, and that you start to practice the words, the actions, the feelings, the images, and the thoughts that promote the optimum possibility of health. And then there are also things you have to do as a couple. So here's the catch. Now, I've been saying this for years with couples. The catch is that what got you in the state you're in is following your reflex. It's natural for us to follow our reflex. It's usually a self-protective reflex. We do things to protect ourselves from our fears, from getting hurt, from being judged, from being abandoned, and a lot of things that we've talked about in some of the earlier videos. So in order for the relationship to work, you actually oftentimes, or at least I should say consistently, have to go opposite of your self-protective reflex. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'll be talking to you about a bunch of things, but the main thing I'm going to be talking about is open and deep communication. Because with open and deep communication, that is the main key in how to restore trust. And both people's feelings are important, and both people's self-expression are important. But where you're at and where we're talking about in this video 4, we are going to put the priority on the feelings of the betrayed person. That doesn't mean that the person who cheated doesn't have a turn, but we're going to give priority to the person, the betrayed person. So as I speak in the beginning, it's all about the betrayed person gets to experience being listened to and being heard. It's very important. Communication is really about two things: self-expression and being heard, both ways. So the key is to learn how to listen, and again, talking about it from the person who cheated perspective, and also to be able to own as much of it as you want, or as you can, or as you could. Not really as much as you want. I shouldn't have said that. That was a misspoken term here. It's as much as you could. Because our reflex is to not want to own anything. But if we're going to create a healthy relationship, we got to go opposite that reflex. We got to give up trying to be right. One thing I've said to many couples, whether they've had infidelity or not, going after the truth is the worst thing you could do. just forget about going after the truth. It doesn't really work. What you have to do is realize each person has their own truth, and each person's truth is valid. But again, from the person who was betrayed, we need to validate that person's truth first. So everything we're going to talk about is the person who committed the adultery, the infidelity, that had the secret that was discovered. You're the person that's going to have to listen and own. All right? So the technique I like to talk about, or the metaphor, is about playing catch. So that's what we're going to deal with. And in the workbook under section 4, there's going to be exercise about playing catch. And that's really going to be the emphasis. After I talk about that, there's going to be some other things that I think are important to talk about that will help the betrayed person heal and to help restore trust. So, playing catch. It's a metaphor that I came up with that really makes sense. If I throw the ball to you and you catch it, which is my intention, is for you to catch it, that's why I threw the ball to you in the first place, it's satisfying to me. It gives me a sense of satisfaction. Likewise, if I express a feeling or a desire to you, my intent is for you to hear it, not for you to get defensive, not for you to reflect back. So if I throw a ball to you and you just knock it back in my direction, or you just watch it drop on the ground, it's not satisfying to me. So, in having a good game of catch, I throw, you listen, I express what I feel, you take it in. So it sounds something like this. Just for the purpose of the example, let's say in this case the husband cheated, the wife says, "I'm so angry at you. I've given you years of my life, and then you go and have a one-night stand." The husband says, "Well, don't focus on just the one night. Think about all the years I've been faithful to you." That's an example of the woman, the wife here, throwing the ball and you didn't catch it. You kind of knocked it back in the direction of the wife. Oh, you just watched it drop, but you didn't catch it. You didn't take in what she was saying. So here's a better way to do that. "I've given you years of my life. I'm so angry because I've given you years of my life," and then you do this one-night stand. And you say, "You're obviously in a lot of pain. Tell me more." By the way, I like 2 3-letter sentences. "I love you" and "tell me more." They're both very important for a healthy relationship. So remember the words "tell me more" and also "I love you." But for this purpose, "tell me more." So you say, "Tell me more." Your partner says, "Well, I don't know, I just feel like you betrayed me and I'm angry at you, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to get past it." Now your reflex might be fear, like, oh my God, she may not get past it. And in reaction to that reflex, you may say something like, "Well then, what are we doing here? Then why don't we just get divorced?" I've seen this kind of thing happen, almost verbatim. But I understand what's going on. There's that fear, and there's that self-protective reflex. But again, you're not catching her ball. So she says to you, again, just to repeat it, "I just don't know if I'll ever get past it." You take a breath or 2 or 3, and instead of reacting or getting defensive, or basically saying, "I'll reject you first," or however we do, you move towards her, metaphorically, and say, "Okay, wow, that you must be in a lot of pain, and I can understand why you're afraid that you'll never get past it." You gotta understand, and I want you both to hear this, is when you're listening, miracles could happen. Will good listening guarantee that you'll be able to get past it, survive, and even thrive? No, but it sure helps, and it sure is necessary. It's a very important part of the path to healing. So you just have to let things be messy right now. I've seen many people who cheated and then they make a commitment. "Look, I'll be good, I got it, I understand my mistake, okay? I even understand why I did it." And they expect their partner to just get over it. It just doesn't happen that way. You need to let the betrayed person have their pain and have their pace. And you have to be willing to tolerate the mess of the emotion and the instability there, so that you are able to stay with your partner. So you need to listen, you need to catch that ball. Now the person who's expressed, who in this case is the person who was betrayed, you also need to express it in a way that actually maximizes the chance that your partner will listen. So it's like if I take a ball and I throw it at you 100 miles an hour, you're not going to try to catch it. You'll just put your hands up to protect yourself. You will get defensive. So of course I would ask the person expressing to not say, you're such a jerk, or you're such a this, or you're such a that, and expect the person to listen. So use I statements. It's like communication 101. I am angry at you. I feel like I've put in all these years, and then you go off and betray me, and it's really hard for me, and I'm feeling very hurtful. I even think about leaving you right now. Those are all fine. You're telling the person. It's like the rule of thumb is what's called clean communication. Clean communication is when the only intention is to share information with you. When most people are communicating or expressing, it's not clean, it's unclean. There's other agendas. I'm going to punish you for what you did. I'm going to get you back. I'm going to get revenge, or I'm going to defend or justify. Now you could do all that, but just know you're making it much harder for your partner to listen. So if your goal is to punish, then your goal is to punish, and that's what you'll do. But all I'm saying is, if you've gotten this far in the program, your goal is to try to see what you could do to heal. And so what you want to do is practice expressing yourself in a way that makes it easier for the other person to listen. So in the workbook, I'm going to want you to go to the workbook when we're done here, and you're going to see that there's going to be a place where you get to express, the person who's expressing gets to write it in I messages, I feel, so that you know that your intention is clean. It's only to share. And the person who is listening, and you're going to do this together now, this is a together exercise, is going to write down, not even talk, we're going to practice writing it first. What would be catching the ball? What would be your response that honors what the other person says? So you can't go with your first self-protective reflex statement. You notice it, it's normal, it's human, but you don't go with it. Instead you open up and you honor the other person. And so you would write down what you might say. What will help you is below that you'll see where I give you exercises in how to practice mirroring, validation, and empathy. Mirroring is basically stating the words the other person said. It could be a very effective technique. And the person who committed the infidelity has to get better at mirroring it. That's the simplest one. I'm so angry at you. After all these years, you betray me like that. And you say, I can understand how you feel. After all these years, you put so much into you could paraphrase and use your own words. You put so much into this, and then I go ahead and betray you like that. So that's an example of mirroring. Okay. Validating would be something like, it's a little deeper. It's like, I can imagine how you're feeling when you say that. It must be really frustrating for you. I totally get where you're coming from. And along with validating is owning. You need to own your stuff. You need to own as much as you could. Again, not as much as you want, but as much as you could. So I'm not saying that you agree to things that aren't true, but if your partner says, you cheated on me, you've been cheating on me the whole relationship, you don't say, no, it's not the whole relationship, not at this point. You say, there's been quite a while where I did cheat. You're absolutely right. And that must feel really awful to you. I was in this relationship for quite a while, and you didn't know about it, and for you to discover it must have been absolutely terrible. That's validating. And empathizing is sort of like validation, but just going even a little deeper. It's basically putting yourself in your partner's shoes, just departing from your own agenda, and just saying, God, if that were me, I would feel awful too. I could imagine how that might feel. And I want you to do your best to try to imagine what that would feel like. And when you do that, and you reflect back to your partner, or you know, that's going to be a very powerful catching her ball. When you say it with a sense of, God, I can imagine what that's like. It's different than saying, yeah, I see you're angry, versus, oh, God, I can imagine what that was like. There's a power in that. And so your partner is beginning to experience your presence. Something I do need to talk about when it comes to communication is the word receptivity. You as the listener have to practice getting into a receptive state. Think about how if you're out in nature, you drop all your agendas, you're only noticing the waterfall, and you're just tuning it in and taking it in. That's an example of a receptive state. Think about the last time you were in a state where you were fully in the present moment. You didn't have an agenda. You weren't thinking about what to say or what to do. You just took in the waterfall, just for example. In the same way, you want to look at your partner and just take your partner in. Just be receptive to whatever the experience is. Remember, going after the truth is not a good thing. You just want to reflect the truth of the partner, how your partner is experiencing life right now. So practicing the mirroring, the validating, and empathy is a very important part of playing catch. And as you do that, it becomes a consistent thing. I'll be talking more about that again in video 5, because consistency is going to be very, very important. But as your partner is seeing that you're doing something different with him or her, when you're both communicating in ways far different than you did before, it's easier to restore trust. It reminds me of a couple I saw where he cheated on her when she was 6 months pregnant and for a while after that. And they came to see me and we worked on this issue, and we found that his reason for cheating was he felt lonely. And he felt lonely because he had a belief that I just can't stand up for myself, which stemmed from his family of origin. So we worked on that, and we helped him begin to express what he wanted, and he had to listen to his wife's feelings about the affair, but ultimately she was also able to listen to the things he wanted, which he never communicated overtly to her before. And so about 2 months into the therapy, 3 months into the therapy, I don't exactly remember, his wife says, well, how do I know when I could trust him? And I said, are you guys doing the 10-minute communication, which I'll talk about in video 5, every day or almost every day? She goes, yes. Do you feel closer to your partner? Yes. Well, maybe it's time for you to trust. Maybe it's time. I'll talk a little bit about this in the very end of this video. But what I'm trying to say is that your partner who was betrayed is starting to see change, real change. Remember, it's not what you're doing, thinking, and saying in the past that's the problem. It's what you need to start to do, think, and say now. And we talked about the thinking and all that from the Woffits, but together you are communicating well together. You're practicing playing catch. And then when that partner says, the partner who was betrayed says, okay, I feel like you've heard me, and I'll tell you this I've seen, oftentimes they don't even have to say it. They'll nod or their face will relax. Or they might say, yeah, you got it. They'll let you know that you fully caught their ball. You, as the person who committed the infidelity, can say, okay, is it okay if I express myself to you? But for right now, we're giving the priority to the person who was betrayed. So I do want to say a few other things that are important to help restore the trust and to help the betrayed partner learn that to trust and to know this is something different. One is that the betrayed person needs to be able to ask anything she or he wants about the details. Now there's a caveat to that. I definitely suggest not for the betrayed person to get into all the physical details, if at all possible, because it creates images and it can be traumatizing, and it really isn't necessary. At least most of the time, it's really not necessary. But if that partner wants to know when and where and for how long, whatever that person needs to know, the person who committed the infidelity needs to tell. It's very important to be open, because it's easier to trust when the person who's betrayed gets the feeling that, wow, you've been honest with me. The other thing is that the person who cheated has to consistently do the healthier Woffit, the liberating Woffit that we talked about in the video 3. The other thing is, because life happens this way, if somehow, let's say you had an infidelity in Las Vegas, and then you have to go to a convention in Las Vegas, and it's going to trigger your partner, because that's where the infidelity happened. You're going to have to go out of your way, communicate a lot more, reassure your partner a lot more, call, maybe commit to not drinking if drinking was part of the equation. You have to do whatever you need to do to make the betrayed person feel safe. That is the priority. The other thing, just speaking now to the person who is betrayed, you need to go slowly and honor your own feelings. Don't expect yourself to get better too quickly. That can actually slow things down. It's natural to have anger, it's natural to have hurt, it's natural to have ambivalence. Do I really want to work on this relationship, or do I want to leave it? And you need to allow those feelings to be. So just like I want your partner to listen, I want you to listen to yourself and honor that. The other thing is, don't judge yourself if you decide to stay in the relationship or leave the relationship. My hope and my bias is to try to help you guys stay together and thrive. And if that's your choice, you may not get, if family members know, you may not get applause for that. You may not. But just know that it's okay to choose to stay, as well as it's okay to leave. Again, the thing I want to say is, just like in the couple that I just mentioned as an example, at some point when there's consistency, when there seems to be reason to trust because there's new actions and new thoughts and new statements, I encourage you as the betrayed person to be, I guess, willing to get hurt again. We're not planning on it, but in a sense you got to be willing to. You got to open up, take that chance again when it's right, which may not be right now, maybe a while from now, but at some point you want to go all in so that you can enjoy the benefits of a loving, connected relationship as well. And then I just want to say, if the person who cheated starts to have some of these old feelings that led to the acting out, reach out to your therapist, reach out to some loved one, and most important, reach out to your partner. Again, I'll be talking more about that in videos 5 and 6, but you want to be able to be honest, because using your words is always better than acting out. And I want you to have that kind of relationship ultimately, that you can be really open with each other. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go to your workbook, and I want you to together practice doing the exercises as I wrote it for you. And once you write it, then I'm going to want you to speak it. So write it first and then start speaking it. You can even speak about things that went awry in the past and just do it over again, or you could try something new. But practice it. And if one or both of you get reactive and defensive, accept it and just try it again. This is a new habit that we're cultivating. So be kind to yourself. So once again, I want to thank you and acknowledge you for the work you're doing and the work you're about to do. And then in video 5, we're going to talk about how to go from surviving to thriving as a couple. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in video 5.